Now, more than ever, the world needs your help. People are struggling out there. In Australia specifically, there is a humanitarian movement known as the Red Shield Appeal. The Salvation Army needs your support now more than ever. Let's leave no one in need. Today, I'd like you to dig deep and think about what you can do. Can you give? Can you like and share this post and spread it around? The world needs you. The last, the lost, and the least need you. What can you do?
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Thank you for having me, Hamish. Yeah,
absolutely, man. Anytime.
It's a pleasure to be here. Here at West Underground, you guys have got a pretty awesome setup.
Yeah, thanks, man. So tell us about yourself. Who is Aaron? Like, where did you come from? How did you be? And how did you come to be the person you are now?
It's quite an interesting story. It all started with a vacation, actually, to the Philippines. So back in 2012, I headed out to the Philippines. A friend of mine invited me along, and before I knew it, I was actually popping up in news headlines.
Yeah, right. So what made you go to the Philippines? How did you meet this? How did you meet the person that talked you into going there? And then what made you commit to that journey, I suppose, to go there in the first place?
So believe it or not, like I'm 27 now. I straight out of high school, I joined the Navy, and a good mate of mine was from the Philippines, and he was like, you could totally become famous in the Philippines. And I didn't think that he was being serious, but I thought that there might be some truth there. So I called the bluff, and he wasn't lying. And when I was in the Philippines, I got a lot of media exposure just on vacation, and I decided this is something worth exploring.
Yeah, right. So how did you get media exposure on just the vacation itself?
Well, like TV shows like X Factor, Australia's Got Talent, live audience kind of shows. I just went to one of these live shows, and they spotted me and asked me if I wanted to come out the front. They basically just bantered with me, asked me a few questions here and there, asked me to say a few pickup lines, and all of a sudden I was getting bits and pieces of exposure, and I was just really ballsy one day and decided to ask one of the script writers of one of the shows to give my number to one of the female hosts. Just put it out there, and then out of the blue, I got a text back when I was like in some random spot in the Philippines saying, would you want to go and catch a movie? And that's when I realized there's something about the Philippines that is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you made this move, did you expect anything from it, or were you kind of expecting anything from when you went on the shows, or were you kind of just trying to see if your friend is bluffing?
I mean, I'm a fairly well-traveled guy. I've been to around 29 countries, born and raised here in Australia, and I've always been into culture. And I think for a lot of, if you're an Aussie watching this, like traveling to Asia is almost a rite of passage. A lot of schoolies go out to Bali, and they go up to, Fiji, Southeast Asia, essentially. I went to the Philippines just looking to see what it would offer, and was pleasantly surprised. So that took me on a journey that eventually led into music, I'd say. So I did the vacation for 3 months in Southeast Asia, traveled a bit around, came back to Australia, did a uni degree, but I was always planning to go back and try to make a career in the show business industry in general.
Yeah.
So 3 months in, this is shooting ahead to 2015, I found myself standing on a live television set.
Oh, wow.
Singing a romantic love song,
Yep.
not in English, but in Tagalog.
So how did you learn Tagalog then? Was it just your experiences and the time that you spent in the Philippines that you were able to develop the language, or did you have a language teacher? Or
I think like when everyone travels, you know, it just starts really innocently. It's like, how do you say hello? How do you say thank you? How do you ask where the bathroom is? So like, magandang gabi, magandang umaga, good evening, good morning, kamusta, how are you? And then all of a sudden I got thrown in the deep end, and I was like, they were like, this TV set was asking me, can you sing? And I was like, yeah, I can kind of sing. Like, I had a bit of background being raised in the church and having chances to perform at an early age.
Yeah.
I was doing duets with my mum, like the prayer in Italian, and learning how to sing Happy Birthday in Chinese. So by the time that they were giving me a YouTube stock standard audition where I was reading the lyrics in Tagalog to this tune, I had at least enough of a natural ability to go with it, but it was still very early days. But they thought I had enough potential, and they put me on air, and it was a live competition called You're My Foreignoy on Eat Bulaga. So shout out to all the Filipinos that may be watching and listening in right now. I am now in Australia, but it's great to be here talking a little bit more about my story. And we've got time to do that now because the earth's kind of stopped with everything that's happened with COVID-19 and coronavirus. So exciting times, and thanks for having me on the show once again.
Yeah, no worries, man. Absolutely. Anytime, man. Yeah, man. So specifically, with your time in the Philippines, how long did it take you then to advance in the music scene, and how did your contest kind of go?
So as I was saying, it was a contest that looked for foreigners because I'm Aussie. I don't actually have any Filipino background, contrary to popular belief. So they looked for foreigners that could either sing or dance in Tagalog or Filipino, and there was a daily round, which I was up against a Nigerian guy that we drew. So then we progressed to the weekly round, and then there was 6 of us. There was a Nigerian, myself, an Aussie. There was a French guy. There was someone from Brazil, and amongst all of us, I managed to win that weekly round. So by this point, I'd posted a selfie on Facebook and Instagram, and people are tweeting, watching on TV, like hashtag Aaron, hashtag guapo, which means it means handsome dude. And it just caught fire online. And that really built up kind of a name for myself unexpectedly. And all of a sudden I was thrown in the deep end of celebrity culture in the Philippines. It was crazy. TV show.
So tell us all about this TV show, man, and tell us a little bit more about it, and also tell us about the viewership, especially in the Philippines. How important it is?
So the show is called Eat Bulaga. It's a noontime variety show, and when they were doing my segment called You're My Foreignoy, Artistin Talaga, we were getting half the nation tuning in at its peak. So this is 50 million people, give or take, all tuning in their TV sets around the provincial Philippines and across 100 million people in the nation. Half of them tuning in, watching me sing this one romantic ballad, and thank goodness they loved it, because all of a sudden I'm in the grand finals again with that exposure. It was a day before Manny Pacquiao versus Mayweather in Labor Day there, 2nd of May 2015, if I'm not mistaken. I'd only been there 3 months, and then got a little bit of a name for myself because the Philippines is the social media capital of the world. That then led to joining a boy band for 6 months, getting a lot of modeling deals, endorsements, acting spots, brushing shoulders with the who's who in celebrity culture, and even getting in front of large audiences at live events and even hosting. So it was just the ultimate learning experience. It threw me in the deep end, and I was always trying to find opportunities like that in Australia, but maybe I just realized that when I went to the Philippines, the seas parted, so to speak, and there we are going to the promised land of entertainment.
Yeah, wow, man, that's crazy. So what was then your life when you were, I suppose, thrown in the deep end? What was it like to be then living, I suppose, in celebrity culture? What did that feel like?
No one can really prepare you for going through that, rise to minor fame. There's still way bigger celebrities than me. If I had to really, class it, I'd say maybe I'd be a minor C class celebrity in the Philippines. I don't want anyone thinking I'm the who's who or whatever, but I was getting to be in that scene.
Yeah.
So what prepared me was just having an open mind, having a can-do attitude, and just hustling and grinding and taking names and numbers and networking organically and seeing where that would go. I mean, be courteous, have good manners, don't burn bridges, and adapt to the culture. I mean, if you've got a certain way of living life and you're in a foreign country, like, have the respect to adapt to their ways. Like, learn a little bit of the language. That kind of, you know, adaptation was key for me, I'd say. And living in Australia, being surrounded by a very multicultural community, helped ground me and helped me probably take advantage of right place, right time moments. So, yeah, for anyone out there thinking of trying to make a name for themselves, be open-minded, be adaptive, know your strengths and run with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what, for you, this is an unbelievable story. So for you,
Thanks,
like, what is probably the pinnacle moment for you? What was the most exciting moment of this whole, you know, kind of experience of you rising to fame in, you know, Southeast Asia? What was something that you hold on to and you really, you know, put in your heart as your key experience, or, you know, or something that is just, you know, really personal?
So there was no greater feeling for me than walking into it was City of Dreams. It's like a big casino in Manila, after I just won the weekly, going into the grand finals with my co-competitors, and we, you know, walked into the nightclub, and it was just so satisfying to just properly celebrate on the same night that I'd won the Yormai Foronoi Visayas title, knowing that in, you know, 6 weeks' time you'd be versing with all the other winners of the weekly, and, you know, who knows where that's going to go. So that was one heck of a night, and to do it with my co-competitors and by then mates, it was so satisfying. And you just, that feeling like you were on the precipice of, you know, experiencing making a name for yourself. Because like when I was there for a vacation, like a few years earlier, people were like calling me kind of names in Tagalog, saying, oh, he's probably just like using this chick for her fame and all that. But it was never about that. We were kind of just friends. People were saying, oh, they're dating. Where's this going to go? So I already had a bit of a splash in the paparazzi of the Philippines. Like, finally people can see that I'm not just a suitor of a celebrity, but actually a guy with some talent.
Oh, wow. And I suppose what would you tell, you know, somebody who's an aspiring musician, you know, nationally in Australia or even internationally? What advice could you give them to kind of, you know, to propel them in their career?
So there are so many opportunities in Australia. Specifically for me, I'd say, like, don't give up. And how good are you at identifying opportunities? So you've got, like, what does the landscape look like? How do you get your name out there? Now with social media, you can be starting YouTube channels, Instagram profiles, you can be streaming on Spotify and SoundCloud. All of this before, you didn't have the ability to upload and broadcast quite cheaply as well, where the market decides what they like. Before, when you look at like traditional Hollywood, the big, you know, businesses had control of it.
100%.
But now it's became so much diluted, and, you know, humans are, you know, they've got good EQ, they're intuitive, they know what they like. Like, look at the Joe Rogan podcast, for example. It's got huge numbers of streaming, and he's just there in his room, just, you know, interviewing other people. That's one of the reasons why I actually agreed to come on your show, because I see the potential, and I mean, what you've done with the studio is just absolutely top notch.
Oh, thank you, man. I really, really, really appreciate it.
So, like, get out there and do that sort of thing.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah.
And what about for people that are, you know, interested in just being creative, and also like hosting? You know, for you've had way more experience. This guy has had, you know, 10 times the experience I've had. This is my second interview, and I just want to say, what would you give to me as a host? You know, what piece of advice would you give to me?
Well, I mean, it's very humbling of you to say that, and, you know, you're already doing so much better than many. For one, the hardest part is starting and putting yourself out there. So congrats, Hamish, on that.
Oh, thanks, man.
Just to give you a bit of background, I was hosting a lot of weddings, debuts when a girl turns 18, corporate events. I was nearly cast in Monster Radio in the Philippines, and I was also a grand finalist in the MTV VJ Hunt in 2016. So like that whole MTV peg where you're like introducing new music acts and all that sort of thing. What I realized is the power of conversation. If you can just, you know, forget about your inhibitions and just be present with someone and have a good conversation, who knows where that's going to lead. You know, it's kind of a shame sometimes now, people applying for jobs using the algorithms online and stuff, but how many of them are actually getting to have real conversations with people that make the decisions? It's just constantly hustling, figuring out, you know, the who's who, and remaining true to yourself. Yeah, I would say. At the bus stop, have a chat with a stranger. It starts with that. Like, why are you scared to talk to strangers? A lot of us have to go through those, you know, motions. And there's, for example, like to give a plug, there's a good TED talk by this lady called Kalina Silverman, and she does this thing called Big Talk. Like a lot of us are just asking small questions like, hey, where are you from? Yeah. How's it going? What about, what do you want to do before you die? What about, when did you realize you were beautiful? At what age? What about questions like, how many kids do you want to have and why? You know, like these deeper questions, go into it. That's why I love the fact the podcast industry is booming and you guys are part of that now, because we crave more. We crave more than, oh, what time is it and who's coming over and what drinks are going to, like we want more than that. The rest of it will take care of itself. So in terms of any aspiring hosts out there, don't be afraid to ask the tricky questions. Don't be afraid to make a fool of yourself, make mistakes, try learning a different language, just get out there. A lot of my success, I think, was probably because I was so naive in learning another language and going out there and asking people, where's the bathroom? Where's the mall? Like, tell me about your family in Tagalog. And people could kind of feel that innocence about it. And when you meet someone in Australia that has, you know, questionable English, like it's easy to try, you know, to make a racist remark or like just ignore them, but actually try to engage with them because it's a lot harder than what it may seem.
So Aaron, did you say you dated a model?
I have dated a model or two, but I think the more interesting story is when I dated a chick that won Big Brother in the Philippines.
So what was your experience like on Big Brother?
And, I'm glad that I wasn't on Big Brother. I mean, they speak Tagalog and all that, and I don't know if I'd be in my bounds, but I know Sonia Kruger's going to be hosting Big Brother soon in Australia. Oh, wow. I mean, I don't know if I got around to the audition round, but, you know, there's always twists and turns in Big Brother.
That's certainly true.
And, you know, it was well and truly an interesting experience when people, you know, are like, oh, who's this Australian suitor dating this Big Brother celebrity winner? And she, won't reveal names, she started with an M. You know, for all the listeners out there, quite a big name. You know, she's married with kids now and all that, so you know, I'm in the clear. But she was in a big love team. So the Philippines laps up rom-com and relationships, and so I'll just say their first names, Melai and Jason. Malason was their love team name, and they were on break when I was there on vacation, and we kind of got into a, you know, bit of a paparazzi war. Yeah. And, you know, Jason may or may not have revealed, you know, hate tweets and stuff online about me. And the Filipino community was like, is this legit? Is it not? And I was just like, I'm kind of staying out of this. But at the same time, we're having a good time, just hanging out, kicking the can, going from one place to the other. So, yeah, interesting times.
Oh, I could imagine, man. And another question I had to ask you is, what was your modeling experience like in the Philippines?
So modeling was something that kept me going in between music gigs and hosting gigs and acting gigs, a lot of catwalk, quite a few photo shoots, print, couple of commercials as well. It taught me that, one, men can enjoy a little bit of makeup. I guess, like, I had a lot more makeup put on my face than I thought was ever possible. So that was getting used to just like sitting still in a chair with them doing, you know, all this
Hold
sort of
that
stuff.
Hold that idea, Aaron. Boys out there, do you hear that? You can enjoy a little bit of makeup. So why not? Cheers
to the modeling industry. And now that I'm back in Australia, I'd love to give it a crack here too. So any modelling agencies out there, I'm actually doing a bit of stuff, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe you can have some models on the show one day.
Absolutely. Well, would be very open to it.
Maybe that'll be something, you know, we'll get some TikTokers on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once the social distancing rules clear up a little bit.
We have to make sure they clear up, especially.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, anything's possible, my friend.
Anything's possible.
That is certainly true. And what was your... I remember you saying before also... that
I think you
do
do well in the modelling industry. Like, you got the long hair, you kind of got that, you know, the peg token long-haired dude in the boy band, a bit of Harry Styles vibe. Like, I mean, we could totally... you know, work something out for you.
Yeah, but I can't sing
West
and I can't dance.
Mate, we're talking about pictures and commercials.
Oh,
and stuff
well,
like
maybe you have to
could
give
be
me
a foot in the door to a future modelling career, mate.
Let's hope so. It'll be an interesting one.
You heard it here first.
And it keeps playing on my mind. I remember you were saying something about being in a boy band. Tell me what that experience was like. That would have been interesting.
Mate, we had a pretty cheesy name. I mean, Filipinos love it cheesy. We were called Four Noise. So four, Noiz, and we basically just ripped off a huge marketing craze in the Philippines between a love team called Aldub, this guy called Alden Richards and Main Mendoza, and they just got so many endorsement deals. And we wrote a parody about their love story. And we got dressed up in different outfits. We went out to Provincial Mountain Place and shot this film, and it got picked up by a big news company and did the rounds, and all of a sudden we're touring around in high schools in provincial Philippines, spreading love with a humorous twang to it.
Yeah, right. Well, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, 6 months down the road, you know, being in a boy band can be tricky, the group dynamics and all that, but I'm glad I had the experience, and the rest is history.
You had it here first, guys. And so thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having a guy that, you know, dabbled in fame in Southeast Asia on West Underground.
Absolutely. You heard it here first, guys. West Underground, check it out. Check out Aaron's appeal for the Red Shield in the link below. And thank you very much for coming on. And
thanks, Hamish.
No worries. And guys, that's a wrap.